have you ever looked at the growing list of new releases in despair and thought, well, there's just too many new games? I mean, who's got the time to figure out new gameplay mechanics or learn new character names anyway? Good job then that we're living in the age of the remake. Just look at the stunning Final Fantasy VII remake with its beautiful visuals and evolved combat, or how about the gorgeously gruesome Resi 3 remake? Alright, so some of you were a bit let down by that one, but hey, speak for yourself. Oh, there, Nemesis, I still love you. Even Black Mesa, the fan-made remake of the original Half-Life, has had a low-key official launch after 8 years of development. Literally everyone's at it. A well-crafted remake is an art form, rebuilding a classic from the ground up, new game engine and all, while not straying too far from the original's winning formula, but also including a few new surprises for the old players. For fans, these games offer a sweet hit of nostalgia, and for newcomers, they offer the chance to experience a vintage title without wrestling with old consoles and weird, outdated cables. Remakes give us more than the superficial touch-up that comes with a remaster, and the best ones improve on the originals substantially. But which are the best ones? If only some clever, handsome fellows on the internet had made a video all about it, We should clarify first that while Final Fantasy VII and Resi 3 are both good eggs in their own way, they are actually both a little contentious, and frankly just a bit too hot and fresh out of the oven to handle here, so we'll leave those aside in favour of some older but still valid candidates. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are 10 video game remakes that blew us away. Number 10. Crash Bandicoot, the N.SANE Trilogy. In a shock move that surprised literally nobody, here comes the N.SANE Trilogy in a TripleJump list. Again, for many, Crash was the pinnacle of happy childhood memories with controller in hand, smashing boxes and outrunning boulders with our maniacal Bandicoot friend. Ranking somewhere between Gunge and 10p Freddos on the nostalgia scale, the original 3 Crash Bandicoot titles for the PS1 were ideal candidates to get the full re-makeover treatment, and oh boy, did Vicarious Visions do a great job with 2017's N.SANE Trilogy. Playing through classic levels like Insanity Beach, Tomb Raider and Future Frenzy in stunning new detail was simply incredible, as was seeing the improved animations, reworked cutscenes, and yes, even replaying the punishingly difficult sections. The high road. Did you hear me cough and say the high road? Yeah, that was a good one. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm well aware that this was far from perfect, hence its number 10 spot in this list. For purists, the physics and jumping felt a little off from the original, and some of the updated visuals missed the mark on occasion. Also, the fact that the game necessarily centered around late 90s platforming was a double-edged sword, making it feel unavoidably dated by today's standards for anyone who didn't grow up with the Mad Lad marsupial. But despite those minor niggles, this is a truly faithful revival of an iconic franchise that we thoroughly enjoyed playing a second time around. Crucially, I could happily go back to the N.SANE Trilogy for another run any time, which is something I can't actually say to quite the same extent when it comes to CTR Nitro Fueled, if you were wondering why that hasn't got a look in. Number 9. SPYRO Reignited Trilogy. I want it on record, I did not write this script, James did. I mean, I agree with him, but just saying, I'm not fanboying here. So, in another shock move that surprised literally nobody, we've included SPYRO Reignited here. Hooray. I promise we'll diversify in just a minute, but first, look at that fancy fiery purple boy. 1 year after Crash's high-definition makeover, 2018's SPYRO Reignited brought us another reimagined childhood favourite that surpassed even our own nostalgia-addled memories. The gorgeous models and slick new animations added a real sense of colour to these characters and enemies, from the unique dragon designs to your trusty sidekick Sparks. It all looks superb, and thankfully the game itself plays just as smoothly, at least in the first 2 entries anyway. Much like Crash, it all feels familiar enough for long-term Spyro fans, despite a few little discrepancies. Moves like the charge, glide and fire breath are pretty much just how you remember, adapted slightly to modern sensibilities. Thankfully, they've actually improved the camera controls, mapping them to a joystick to make things a little less frustrating. But much like Crash, sticking to the classic formula too rigidly highlighted some of the issues from a 20-year-old franchise, which in this case meant ridiculous difficulty spikes. Getting to those hidden dragons in treetops and haunted towers still stumped all the new players, because of course it would, and oh boy, don't you just love the alchemist from Fracture Hills. But when you've taken a breath and all's said and done, this was more than worth it to see Spyro's cheeky little grin rendered so well after so many years. Number 8. Star Fox 64.
Let me handle this!
After getting schooled by one annoying toad, it's nice to see another get their comeuppance. Thanks, Slippy, for cheering us up with your own suffering there. Star Fox 64, or Lylat Wars if you're of the European persuasion, made a whole heap of improvements from the original SNES version, not least giving us some now infamous voice acting from the Star Fox Squadron. Yes, including that one, involving the spin. No, we're not repeating it.
Do a barrel!
Stop it! As remarkable as Star Fox was in 1993, squeezing impressive 3D style graphics from the humble 16-bit SNES, the 1997 remake on the N64 was a show of force for what was possible in this new era of proper 3D consoles. Each stage took you to new exotic worlds that looked incredible, sounded more alive, and made you feel like a badass on an interstellar adventure, caught up in epic R-Wing dogfights and destroying evil space monkey brain eyeball things that would give us permanent mental scarring. Gross. Also, it can't be overstated just how brilliant it was that you could clearly see enemies and obstacles, rather than a collection of different shaded polygons. Still can't quite find Slippy though. That's a shame. I guess we'll just have to leave him behind.
You'll be sorry, punks!
Number 7. Sid Meier's Pirates 2004. Sid Meier's Pirates first launched on the Commodore 64 back in 1987, and its open-ended privateering simulation was a far cry from most linear titles of the time. It made its way to various systems over the years, including a NES port developed by Rare of all people, and a 1993 Pirates Gold remaster, but the enhanced remake in 2004 was truly the golden age of piracy-based games. Don't let the Simsy art style and numerous minigames fool you. This title had more depth than the deep end of Davy Jones's locker. The sense of exploration and freedom makes for a perfect pirate sandbox, letting you find fame or infamy as a trader, pirate hunter, treasure map chaser, or meddler in the dynamic, ever-shifting wars between naval powers. Or you could just woo a governor's daughter with some sick dance moves. Ship combat was more fluid, and the updated 3D engine now showed other ships on the high seas, instead of the original's random encounters. You also had an in-game map to help with navigation, faster sword duels, and a reworked city raid feature that played out like a miniature game of Civilization, moving peg-legged pawns around a turn-based battlefield. Overall, we'd give it a solid 8.5 Timber Shivers, and that's quite a lot. The Timber Shivers scale is out of like 9 or something. Number 6. Secret of Monkey Island Special Edition. Still in pirate territory, or is it sort of, it's a bit farmery, actually. The reputation of fearsome privateer Guybrush Threepwood is known far and wide. He can hold his breath for 10 minutes, you know. The Secret of Monkey Island, released in 1990, was the first entry in the legendary franchise, a true icon of an age where witty writing, clever puzzles, and ludicrous storylines were held in higher regard than just how many enemies you could shoot in a minute. This was was peak LucasArts, and given the importance of the series, it's no surprise that the 2009 Special Edition doesn't really change much, apart from redrawing it in a beautiful new art style. All the same on-point humour and surreal puzzle solving is here, which is great news for anyone who missed out on the early 90s heyday of point-and-click adventures. Purists may have a few grumbles, as the art style isn't for everyone, and some of the animations suffer from the original's low frame rate, but if you fancied a throwback, you could always switch to the retro graphical style at any point. Nice addition. Either way, the chance to experience a now 30-year-old classic on modern platforms is a fine thing indeed. Number 5. Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Long before the roster bloat and the harrowing Dexit debacle, the first generation was a simpler time, fondly remembered by all. The success of the beautifully 3D rendered Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee show its enduring popularity, even today. But it's the second generation titles, Gold and Silver, that in every conceivable way upped the ante. 100 new Pokemon, including new evolutions and baby pre-evolutions, a brand new Johto region, followed by another part of the previous game's Kanto region, 16 gym leaders, hundreds of trainers. Like a Snorlax at an all-you-can-eat buffet, the good stuff keeps on coming. And as if that wasn't enough, 2009's DS remakes, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, brought even more goodness to the table. Possibly the biggest feature for a series all about growing your personal menagerie of bizarre creatures was the chance to catch Pokemon from newer generations, even legendaries like Kyogre and Groudon, am I saying those right? And compatibility with all 493 Pokemon released up to that point. Perhaps best of all, each one was capable of following behind you in-game, Pokemon Yellow style, which is adorable, /hilarious, /terrifying, delete as appropriate. Quests and mini-games were added, like the Pokeathlon, along with new areas to explore, including the Pokeathlon Dome, the Sinjo Ruins, the Battle Frontier. I don't know what's happening anymore, I don't play these games, but for all the excellent remakes in the series, I have it on good authority from everyone else at TripleJump that it's fair to say Gold and Silver captured our hearts and souls like none other. I trust the scriptwriter. Number 4. Metroid Zero Mission. While Nintendo keeps Samus rolled up and packed away in long-term storage waiting for a worthy new title, no, Other M and Federation Force do not count, you dafties, we've at least had a couple of nice remakes. 2017's Metroid Samus Returns for the 3DS is a beautiful modernization of the 1991 Game Boy title Metroid 2. But 2001's Metroid Zero Mission, gracing the Game Boy Advance, might have the edge, with a masterful retelling of the Metroid that started it all back in 1986. As expected, a hefty visual upgrade is present here, but this beauty is more than skin deep. It makes a massive improvement to the exploration-focused gameplay, helping players differentiate between certain areas much easier than in the 1986 classic, which didn't even have a map. In this brighter and more accessible game, features from those that came after the original were a welcome inclusion, like the ability to hold onto ledges and wall jump smoothly, along with new items, areas, mini-bosses, and a more fleshed out story that explains some of Samus's mysterious past. Complete the game with any of the numerous endings, and you'll even unlock the original NES Metroid, so you can see just how good you've got it with this marvellous new version. Number 3. Zelda Link's Awakening 2019. When the first trailer for this new chibi-fied version of Link emerged, you'd have been forgiven for thinking that this was all an elaborate ploy to sell a range of unbearably adorable figurines and plushies. As it turns out though, 2019's Link's Awakening was a beautifully stylized revival of what many consider to be one of the best 2D Zelda games of all time. It's also up there with Majora's Mask as one of the weirdest Zelda games. Yes, that is a chain chomp from Mario looking more adorable than ever, and no, we don't know how it fits in with Link's world either. Just roll with it, okay? Much of the core gameplay formula remained unchanged. While the world looks stunning in 3 dimensions, you're still working with the classic 2D top-down style, but there are plenty of slight differences to spice things up for fans of the 1993 original. Link's sword and shield are permanently equipped, freeing up your item slots for your assortment of feathers, boots, and bracelets. There are more heart pieces and secret seashells to discover, another excuse to explore the gorgeous overworld, and you also have the custom Chamber Dungeons mode for added value. What a show indeed, Dampe. What a show. Number 2, Shadow of the Colossus, PS4. Many remakes take measures to update the gameplay of their older selves in order to better fit our modern expectations. Some games, however, were so uniquely ahead of their time that changing anything would be a criminal offence. That is certainly the case for Shadow of the Colossus, which first wowed players in 2005 with an experience unlike almost anything we had seen before in a video game. And so when Bluepoint Games started working on the PS4 remake released in 2018, they took extra care to preserve the feel of the original. The weightiness of Wanda's movements, the minimalist direction, the tension of ascending a bloody massive creature all feel the same, bar a couple of minor control tweaks. But as you can see, no attention was lost on the visuals, with the devs building animations, lighting engines, and even a dynamic fur system from scratch to create a truly mesmerizing ocular treat, and vastly improved performance to boot. Visual upgrades in remakes are always a large piece of the pie, but for a title so focused on the grand spectacle of these awe-inspiring beasties, it was a crucial thing here, being intrinsically linked to the whole experience, and it's a testament to the original game that with these graphics now brought up to date, everything else still holds up magnificently. Seriously, if you haven't experienced slaughtering a load of mystical, millennia-old beings yet, now's your chance. No judgment, honestly, we've all been there. And number 1, Resident Evil 2 Remake. We've talked about the Resi 2 remake many times over the past year, and with good reason. This revival of a title over 20 years old completely shattered expectations of what a remake could and should be. Gone were the outdated tank controls, fixed camera angles, and pre-rendered backgrounds, but the survival horror atmosphere remained as tense as ever. The gorgeously rendered locations, sinister lighting, and horrifying sound design only added to that constant state of unease, as did the fact that many enemies you thought you knew the locations of had been moved around just to mess with old series fans. This particularly twisted spark of genius piled on the anxiety further, as if being chased by Mr. X wasn't bad enough. Oh, and zombies can even follow you into different rooms now, so no more hiding behind those loading screens, you massive coward. There were lots of minor changes too, such as knife durability, sub-weapons, and boarding up windows to provide a fresh experience, along with a beautifully clean and minimal UI, and a map that clearly showed which rooms still had items left to discover, which was a godsend. This incredible remake not only blew us away, it set the standard for the Resident Evil 3 remake to follow, which incidentally has probably actually harmed that game a little bit. But that says it all really. I think the Resi 3 remake is objectively okay, but the fact that comparing it with its predecessor makes it look a lot worse than it is goes to show just how fantastic the Resi 2 remake really was. And that's our list, but which remakes did we leave out? And which old games do you think are still waiting for a well-deserved facelift? Let us know in the comments below. You can follow myself and TripleJump on Twitter here, and if you want to support the things you enjoy, then check out the rewards on our Patreon. Finally, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I've been Peter from TripleJump, and thanks for watching.